Есть человек оперативных решений. Быстро только хочет решить сейчас. Обстоятельства вынуждают его принимать решения. А есть люди, которые имеют стратегическое мышление и могут в своих мыслях и воображении перешагнуть на большую дистанцию во времени, на год, на 2, на 10 и больше, до оставшуюся жизнь.
I was looking in a encyclopedia of the Olympic Games, flipping through a very, very thick book, and found myself looking at a photograph of a blonde and statuesque woman whose name was Helene Mayer, as mentioned in a caption under the photograph, who had participated as a fencer in the 1936 Olympic Games in Germany. And she looked so serious, so intent with the vivid Heil Hitler salute that I immediately was attracted to her.
She started with German masters in very young years, and already when she became 18 years, she was already in Amsterdam 1928 and won the gold medal for Germany in foil.
She was very, very popular. And she became a true representative of the German people, and she inspired them, and she raised their hopes in the future. Just as we see here in the United States, many times sports idols raise people's hopes and give people hope for the future. She did that for Germany.
Sie war ja eine berühmte Sportlerin. Sie ist ja in ihrer Vergangenheit vom Reichspräsidenten ausgezeichnet worden. Sie war ein berühmter Bestandteil der deutschen Gesellschaft, hoch gefeiert, abgebildet auf illustrierten Zeitungen, und von der Seite hatte sie natürlich gute Erinnerungen an Deutschland.
Helene Mayer became an important pawn in the game that played out between the International Olympic Committee on the one hand and Hitler's Nazi regime on the other hand. It was very important to the International Olympic Committee that it appear, at least, that Nazi Germany was allowing Jewish athletes to compete, that there was fair play for the athletes.
She was a morally challenged person that might have had influence over the outcome of the 36 games in Germany, possibly. But that didn't happen. That's very sad that that didn't happen.
She came to the Fencers Club just when the competition was about to begin. She was fencing in the competition. And she opened the door of the Fencers Club. It slammed against the wall. And she walked in, and she said, "I am here." And then she went on to tell us why it was so difficult for her to get there. She was tall, blonde-headed, with braids on both sides, and she was in fencing uniform. She strode in, and she owned the whole saildom. She just was dynamic, a tremendous personality.
A young, blue-eyed, beautiful fencer, very svelte, an elegant fencer. She won her first German championship in 1924 at the age of 13, and then she won another and another, and here she comes to the 1928 Olympics as a member of German fencing team. It was Germany's first Olympics since World War I, and Mayer wins the gold medal. It was a great triumph for Germany, and she became an instant sports idol.
She became such a celebrity that hundreds of thousands of small statuettes were manufactured, and in many families they graced the mantelpiece or the top of a desk or what have you. She was a revered figure.
Helene Mayer was born in the town of Offenbach near Frankfurt into a half-Jewish, half-Christian family. In this picture, she's with her older brother Eugen. Here, Helene with her parents. Her father was a respected doctor in Offenbach. Her mother was a housewife who stayed home to take care of their 3 children. As much as relatives and friends can remember, as a child, Helene liked 2 things in life: dancing and sports. Fencing became her fascination. Why fencing, you may ask? Because it reminded her of dancing so much.
Wir hatten immer Fechten als Arbeitsgemeinschaft, als freiwillige Veranstaltung im Sport und haben dabei auch immer über Helene Mayer gesprochen. Also die Kinder, die hier Fechten gelernt haben, wussten, dass es eine Schülerin gegeben hatte, die eine Goldmedaille gewonnen hatte. Leider ist im Augenblick kein Kind am Fechten interessiert, aber vielleicht kommt es wieder.
Her school, Schillerschule, was in Frankfurt, where she would go by tram every morning and then back to Offenbach early in the evening to take fencing lessons in this house, 69 on Domstraße.
In the history of fencing, during the 18th and 19th, 20th century, it became a forum for talented athletes who mainly considered themselves at least upper middle class, and was very, very popular in colleges and in universities. It was, I guess it was a mark of some kind of status, special status.
Helene's second Olympic Games were in Los Angeles in 1932. In the beginning, she did well and easily made the final. But just before the final was to begin, a member of the German team told her that her best friend, a Navy doctor, lost his life when his ship Niobe sank in the Baltic Sea. She couldn't focus on fencing anymore and took 5th place.
Und ich fand, es ist kein guter Stil gewesen, nicht zu warten, bis vorbei ist, die Competition, und ihr es hinterher zu sagen. Das war der Grund, weshalb sie nicht dieselbe Leistung brachte wie 1928 in Amsterdam. So.
After the Games, Helene stayed at Scripps College as an exchange student for 2 years. In 1934, with the Nazi regime in power, going back to Germany was not safe anymore. So Helene moved to Mills College, where she taught German language and fencing.
Aber das Heimweh blieb immer, unabhängig von der politischen Sache, weder vor oder für oder gegen ein System. Sie war unpolitisch. Was ihr an sich gefehlt hat in Amerika oder in Kalifornien, war die deutsche Sprache, die Kultur, die Dichter, so mit dem sie groß geworden ist, von der Schule her.
Moment Zeit. Geht ihr jetzt in die Leibniz in die Schule? Ja. Ich wollte mal fragen, ob ihr wisst, wer Helene Mayer ist.
Nein, das wissen wir nicht.
Niemand?
Nein, wir wissen es nicht.
Even though the Jewish population in Germany was the most assimilated and there was the most intermarriage in Germany in comparison to other European countries, there was a long, long history of anti-Semitism going back to organized society, or the beginning of organized society, when Christianity and Judaism bumped into one another, shall we say.
Also es gab natürlich zu jeder Zeit politische und unpolitische Leute, aber die Totalität der Erfassung der Politik in der damaligen Zeit war so, dass man also den antijüdischen Gesetzen und Maßnahmen, dass die völlig öffentlich waren. Es war in jeder Stadt antijüdische, antisemitische Plakate und Bilder zu sehen. Jeder Deutsche, der nur einmal hinsah, konnte und musste davon informiert sein.
Dear Director, if the newspaper reports are accurate, the Olympic winner Helene Mayer was a student in 12th grade at your school. At our school, we have lively and ongoing discussions about the claim that she is not of Christian faith. I, therefore, take the liberty to ask you for a reply on the enclosed card. Professor Liz Schneider.
Dear Professor, in response to your question, I can tell you that Helene Mayer of Israeli faith. Maybe you can tell your curious students that the affiliation to this religious community says nothing about race affiliation. As is sometimes the case, she meddles completely to the Aryan side. What is most important to us is that she is a dutiful, open, and modest girl of true German character and true German spirit. With German greetings, Claudius Bayunga.
Also ich kann mich erinnern, als Kind, das war also die 20er Jahre, dass irgendwie die Welt um mich herum ein bisschen grau war. Viele Schülerinnen, deren Eltern arbeitslos oder Vater arbeitslos war, und das hat man so als Kind mitgekriegt. Es war nicht so eine Stimmung. Und dann kam nachher der Hitler und hat dann alles miteinander so, mit Schinderatata, wollen wir mal so sagen, groß gemacht und hat dadurch, dass er mit der Autobahn und mit dem Aufrüsten Arbeitsplätze geschaffen hat.
After the Nazis took power in late January 1933, very quickly all aspects of German life were Aryanized. This meant that Jews were slowly and sometimes very quickly actually were forced out of employment, civil service jobs. In the world of sport, German clubs denied Jewish athletes or anyone who was considered non-Aryan, which meant it could have been a Jew, someone who had some Jewish background but who did not even practice Judaism. They were thrown out of sports clubs and federations, and they could not compete in events with other German athletes.
And because she is half Jewish, she is banished. Her name is no longer mentioned. Her statues are no longer being sold. The media ignores her. She is no longer recognized in Germany as the great sports idol that she was before the Nazis came to power.
One of the students whom she roomed with when she was at Scripps College recalls them listening to a radio broadcast in German where Hitler is making a speech about his plans. And she says, verliebt, ganz verliebt, meaning crazy, completely crazy, so that her initial reaction was one of probably dismay, disbelief, and hopefully that all this crazy stuff would disappear.
Ja, sie hatte schon Nachrichten über Deutschland und sie betrachtete viele Nachrichten eigentlich als Hetznachrichten, als Propagandanachrichten, als Lügen. Auf der anderen Seite hatte sie aber schon den Willen, sich selbst zu überzeugen, ob das denn zutrifft. Auch wenn die Lage bitter ist, schrieb sie ihrer Mutter, will ich das mit eigenen Augen sehen.
She knew that what would be her fate over there. Because during this time, even sooner, a lot of people was moving away from German Jewish. She had a chance to come back to US. I think that was probably the motive, because she should know. This time she already should know about it.
In 1935, the Nuremberg laws were passed. The Nuremberg laws deprived Jewish citizens of their citizenship, in a sense making them almost non-beings, making them almost unreal, robbing them of one of the most important identifications that a human being has, which is being a citizen of a country.
In the beginning, the Nazis had those laws, but eventually more restrictions were introduced. Jewish doctors could not treat non-Jewish patients, Jewish lawyers could not assist non-Jewish clients, and Jewish athletes could not compete against Aryans.
I got to hearing stories about her. And there were still a lot of fencers around the Bay Area at the time who remembered Helene, and all had their own stories about her and had a lot of theories about what happened to her, especially during the time of the Berlin Olympics.
As you may know, the 1936 Olympics that were scheduled to be held in Berlin were a major public relations event for the Nazis, and Hitler became convinced that they could host these Olympics and show the world what a wonderful, competent country Germany was. This occurred after the Nuremberg laws were put into effect, where Jews had lost their citizenship, and a great protest movement arose in the civilized world about including Jewish athletes in the Olympic Games, particularly from Germany, who was the host country. If Jews no longer had their citizenship, or if Jews were not of Olympic caliber, where were the notions of fair play, and where were the notions of allowing fine athletes to compete no matter what their nationality was? A huge controversy arose over the 1936 Olympics. It occupied the newspapers for well over a year. Would Germany permit German Jewish athletes who qualified to participate in the Olympics? That was the question.
The central issue of the whole anti-Olympic argument is not the fact that there will be a few non-Aryans in the German team. but rather the race problem as such. America has the position that, considering the situation, the games should not be held in Berlin at all. And in order to bring evidence, they dig out examples that have already been forgotten, examples which almost break one's heart.
Also die Protestbewegung gegen die und die Boykottbewegung gegen die Spiele in Berlin wurden getragen von Kirchen, von Gewerkschaften, von linken Parteien und vom Arbeitersport. Und das sind alles Leute, die hatten keinen Einfluss auf das IOC. Im IOC selbst gab es ganz wenige Stimmen, die sich für einen Boykott aussprachen, und die absolute Mehrheit der bürgerlichen Sportführung aller westlicher Länder und des IOC war gegen einen Boykott und für eine Beteiligung in Berlin.
The USOC put out pamphlets and all kinds of information. One of them was called Fair Play for Athletes. Brundage maintained that the Olympics were for the athletes, not for politicians, that politicians should be kept out of this discussion, and that the game should go on. And he was up against a very formidable group of people in the United States who said that one should not go to Nazi Germany. That would constitute support and endorsement of sorts for the regime, and that Nazi Germany was not engaging in fair play. Nazi Germany was not allowing everyone, regardless of their race, creed, or color, to participate in the competition leading up to the games.
Here is the letter from Ernest Lee Janka, American member of the International Olympic Committee, to the president of the IOC. I will read part of this letter. I am of German descent, and I am very proud of that origin. I shall urge my countrymen that they should not participate in the games in Nazi Germany, because it is my opinion that under the domination of the Nazi government, the German sports authorities have violated, and are continuing to violate, every requirement of fair play in the conduct of sports in Germany, and are exploiting the games for the political and financial profit of the Nazi regime. This letter cost Ernest Lee Janka his position in the IOC, and he was replaced by Avery Brundage.
Helene, as we know, who was at Mills College, seemed like the perfect athlete to go after. She was a bona fide fencer. She was a beautiful athlete. And would she be allowed, or should she be asked to participate in these games? Would she want to, knowing what was going on in Germany? What was going to happen here?
Als erstes, was für einen Status habe ich als Halbjüdin nach den 1935 die Nürnberger Gesetze? Und es war, so wie ich von meiner Familie mitbekommen habe, war es sehr schwer gewesen.
Miss Mayer is now of the opinion that she can compete with conviction for Germany in the Olympics only if she has certainty that she will be regarded as an equal member of the national community. Miss Mayer, who has an impulsive temperament and does not always weigh her words carefully, will let herself be carried away into making remarks which will do us unnecessary harm. Consul General Hinrich.
The United States Olympic Committee wanted the games to go on no matter what. When Avery Brundage and General Sherrill, who was on the American Olympic Committee, found Helene Mayer and decided to try to get her to be the token Jew, they were thrilled. They wanted the games to go on, whatever, and Avery Brundage and the Swedish member of the International Olympic Committee were overt anti-Semites. And their behavior was sickening, to put it mildly. One reads of the competition between them, that the Jews are troublemakers, that the Jews are looking for publicity, that the Jews are always blaming the rest of the world. We don't want to get involved in a Jew-Nazi altercation, is what was said. That's up to Germany and the Jews to work out. That has no meaning to us.
Brandtl selber, den kann man in dieser Phase uneingeschränkt als pro-deutsch, ja als faschistisch gesinnt einstufen. In seiner rassischen, noch wie die Dame berichtete, in den 60er Jahren habe er im Brandtl Haus Leute in SA-Uniform rumlaufen sehen. Das ist also unglaublich. Also Brandtl brauchte, dessen persönliche Karriere ja eng mit Deutschland verbunden ist. Er ist 1936 IOC-Mitglied geworden und hat bis 1972 in München ist er als Präsident zurückgetreten. Also er war sehr deutsch, pro-deutsch und in dieser Phase, auch in seinem Kampf später gegen den Eintritt Amerikas in den Krieg, kann man Brandtl eigentlich als Anhänger der Faschisten einstufen, der Nazis.
It was a very, very dramatic time with a year at least of very tawdry negotiations between the German government, the Nazi government, who ostensibly did invite her to attend. She said she never heard from them, but finally she took the lead and informed the Consul General in San Francisco that if Germany would return her citizenship, she would go to Germany to fence on the German Olympic team.
Regarding your question, whether I want to participate in the Olympics, I inform you that I accept your invitation to fence for the third time as a representative of Germany. However, I can only participate for Germany as a German citizen, and since I cannot overlook the impact of the new laws from here, I kindly ask you to inform me about my civil status.
Und so viel mir bekannt wurde, ist es so, dass also die jüdische Gesellschaft in Amerika vielleicht begrüßt hätte, wenn sie Nein gesagt hätte. Das wäre allerdings ein Desaster gewesen gegenüber das Nazireich. Und es war ja so, wie man mir gesagt hat, ich muss immer jetzt sagen, was mir bekannt wurde, es hätte fast davon abgehangen, dass die amerikanische Mannschaft nicht gekommen wäre zur Olympiade. Und das wäre natürlich in Berlin dem Regime nicht angenehm gewesen. Und da hat man sie in Anführungsstrichen zu einer Ehrenarierin erklärt. Sie hat es angenommen, wenn sie es nicht gemacht hätte, wäre ihre Mutter und die beiden Brüder über Nacht verschwunden gewesen.
You know, it is ironic that because Helene was considered to be Jewish by the Nazis, that her name was erased from the history of German sports. Yet precisely because she was Jewish, the Nazis asked her to come back and be a member of their Olympic team.
Ungefähr so.
Ich bin überrascht. Ich hab's mal gewusst. Ich bin aber leider überrascht.
Also ein kleiner Tipp, es war eine Sportlerin. Können Sie sich vorstellen, in welcher Sportart vielleicht?
Das noch. Nein, der Name sagt nicht die Sportart.
What did she try to achieve by going to the Berlin Olympics?
Well, as I said before, she saw it as an opportunity to regain her favorite position in Germany. She was once the darling of the public, as I've stated, in the 28 games, and I think she was unable to let go of that image of herself. I think she didn't want to see, and this is quite understandable, any connection between religiosity and athletic ability. What did the two have in common? She was out to say this is all a bunch of nonsense, and being a fine athlete has nothing to do with religion, and I'm going to show those people that it's true.
I think that it was her ego which was driving her, to compete, because she left Germany, she came to US because she felt that as a Jewish person it would not be good and safe for her, and competing for Germany with Hitler, if he chose to do it, because she was not supposed, if she would live in Germany, and it would be much more pressure. But the pressure was only that which boosts her ego.
I think she's still defending her mother. She was still defending her mother. Her mother was still in Germany. Her mother, they could say, yes, we're going to take care of her. And then she says one little nasty thing of what happened in Germany, and whoop, the mother's gone. I mean, they didn't care at the time for anybody's feelings.
Als alleinstehende junge Frau die politische Tragweite ihrer Entscheidung zu erkennen. Sie litt unter der Zerrissenheit, sie litt unter den Erwartungen, die beide Seiten auf sie setzten. Und ich kann mir nur vorstellen, dass man sie in dieser Situation die Sportlerin in ihr zum Durchbruch kam.
И если целесообразность во всех случаях отметает нравственность, совесть и здравый смысл, видели целесообразность ежеминутно. Она и в политике, прежде всего, очень опасна, целесообразность. Сегодня целесообразно, а завтра другое целесообразно.
It happened, in my opinion, that it was up to Helene to say, yes, games will be held in Berlin, or they will not. Don't you think it was up to her?
That's the most interesting question. And it's related to this whole field of history that's studied now that's called what if. What if? What if Helene had refused to be the token Jew at the 1936 Olympics? Would this have changed the course of history? Would this have robbed Germany of an opportunity, a public relations opportunity that put it on the map and made that country look like hot stuff? Maybe.
It turns out that Mayer was a very critical player in these games. It's conceivable that the games may not even have come off in Berlin if she had not participated, because she was the token so-called non-Aryan athlete that participated on the German team, the only one. They did not allow a world-class Jewish high jumper, Gretel Bergmann, to participate on the team, even though it's very likely she would have medaled. She may have won the gold. But they had Mayer, and that was enough to convince the International Olympic Committee, enough to convince the United States Olympic Committee that the rules of fair play were being respected. Some scholars believe that this close vote in favor of participation hinged on Mayer's participation. That vote came very soon after it was announced that she would be returning from California to Germany to participate in the 1936 Olympics.
Had she said, no way, I can't participate in this, I'm going to be like the Austrian swimmers who refused to participate, Austrian Jewish swimmers, or even Dutch non-Jewish athletes who said, I cannot participate in this. They were truly noble, but she wasn't.
If she would reject it, it would have a positive effect because she would point out, look what policy is going on. And maybe it would influence that other athletes would reject also.
Ja, gut. Also Sie wissen viel mehr als andere, stelle ich fest.
Früher, also nach 70 100% nicht, nach 1970, also vor 1970 irgendwann.
once a celebrity, always a celebrity. To have to give up that distinction was extraordinarily difficult. 2, she had no identity as a Jew. That was not a part of her persona. And as a matter of fact, I think it was a part of her history that she would like to forget. Let us remember she wanted no part of any kind of Jewish instruction. She never identified as a Jew. And I think that that whole label might have been quite repulsive to her.
Your students do know who Helene Mayer was.
Viele wissen das, ja. Sie laufen jeden Tag an ihrem Bild vorbei, aber ich weiß nicht, wie sie es registrieren. Aber es wird immer wieder von ihr erzählt. Das tun wir, ja.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I don't know who Helene Mayer is. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know who she is. I'm sorry.
If Helene was so much homesick, why didn't she stay in Germany after the games?
It is easy. She has no future for her life. In Germany sie has, also ich mache es jetzt in Deutsch, in Deutschland hätte sie keine Möglichkeit gehabt. Ihr Wunsch war mal, in den diplomatischen Dienst zu treten, weil sie sprachgewandt war. Nachdem sie aber 1933 nicht mehr eine Zukunft gehabt hätte als Halbjüdin in Deutschland, musste sie wieder zurück. Die Familie hatte kein Vermögen mehr, nachdem der Vater tot war. Sie hätte keine Position mehr bekommen, obwohl sie seit 28, mal sagen, das deutsche Mädchen war. Und deshalb ging sie zurück nach Amerika.
So she returned to Mills College, and I think that her response when she spoke to the faculty and made some speeches about her sojourn in Germany during the 36 games was rather odd. She spoke of the gifts she received. She spoke of the handbags and the lovely clothing she got. She referred to Hitler as a cute little man. Why did she do this? And in thinking about it, I believe that she was in a state of incredible denial. She did not allow her tormentor to be as bad as he actually was, so that she couldn't really deal with the event. This was so, in a way, tawdry and unrelated to what was happening that you wondered whether indeed her denial went so deep that at this point she could barely be rational. One also has to remember that she was once again in the Olympic Village with other women Olympic players, German players, who obviously welcomed her back. So there was a sense of camaraderie.
Sometimes I look at the world map and I see in horror how far away San Francisco really is from Germany. Just take a look for yourselves. Will we see each other again in the future? I don't know. All I know is that I want to come back to Germany, but there surely is no room for me. I am one of those souls who was hit by harsh fate.
In one of the letters that was made available to me, her co-athlete and friend at the Olympic Games said that Helene cried when she came in second and was so saddened by the fact that she did not receive the little oak tree that was given to all of the gold medalists. As we know, the oak tree is a very iconic symbol in German culture, and all of the gold medal winners won little oak trees.
But she doesn't give up with her dream to be reestablished as a star and an idol in Germany. So she goes to the World Championships as a member of the German team in 1937 in Paris. She's specially invited by the International Fencing Federation because of her second place finish in the Olympics, her silver medal. And she wins the world championships. She is the winner. She's the world champion. And she thinks now they will have to recognize me. They will have to put me back on the pedestal that I had been on when I was the Olympic champion in 1928. And she travels back to see her family in Frankfurt. She goes to her mother's house and she asks her friends, what have they said about me now that I'm the world champion? And their answer was very disappointing. It was nothing. No press, no media attention. She's again banished from the minds of the German people by the Nazis.
It finally sinks into her that she is not wanted in Germany anymore. So she returns to California to her job and friends. Soon after, she applies for American citizenship, becomes a citizen in 1940, and during the war teaches American servicemen German language. She also continues to fence and to compete, and wins altogether 9 U.S. national titles.
And then I watched her fence, and she was beautiful to watch. A completely rounded game. I saw her make parry approach that you could die for. You know, a parry with a low line. Oh, beautiful. Parry and a post low line. And I saw her make attacks with a long lunge, advanced lunge, huge. I saw her make stop thrust. Everything was just, it was as if she were taking a lesson. She commanded every bout she fenced in. She was unbelievable. And I kept thinking, I want to be like her. I want to be like her. This is in 47, and I went to the Olympics in 48, so I was still learning how to try to be good.
Guten Tag, darf ich Sie mal was kurz fragen? Sie müssen. Aha, wir wollten Sie nur fragen, wissen Sie, wer Helene Mayer war?
Ich weiß, wer Robert Koch war.
In your opinion, should politics play a role in Olympic movement?
No, but it is so hard to handle. It's easy to say no. It's much harder. It's much harder to implement. How you separate politics from the Olympic Games or any national competition, which because of nationalism becomes so fraught with emotion.
Vor jeder Olympiade wurde irgendwann mal Helene genannt. Und 1972 war ja eine Briefmarke auch von Helene auf dem Markt. Ich weiß nicht, ob Sie es wissen. Eine Briefmarke. Damals Helene Mayer und es war noch, glaube ich, der von Wagen. Also es waren 4 Tote, die schon gestorben waren. An sich mittlerweile nicht. Und ich habe immer wieder das Gefühl, die Deutschen reden nicht gern über die Fehler, die sie einmal gemacht haben. Ob sie sich schämen oder nicht schämen, das ist eine Frage.
Americans do know who J.C. Owens was. The young people in Germany know about Helene Mayer.
Das ist richtig. Nun ist es so, dass ein Sprinter über 100 Meter immer etwas berühmter ist als ein Fechter. Bei aller Wertschätzung. Meine Studenten wissen, wer Helene Mayer ist, die jüngste Olympiasiegerin in der deutschen Geschichte, 1928, die erste Fechterin in den Frauenwettbewerben. Und von der Seite, also wissen das zumindest meine Studenten, aber ihr Name als nationales Symbol ist nicht bekannt.
Yeah, and you know what is sad? She was in her 40s, early 40s, and she was diagnosed with breast cancer. She married, she lived 1 year with her husband, and she died. And so quickly.
I've only seen films of Helene Mayer fencing since I was not born yet when she was competing, even in the United States. But when you see these films, you can tell that this is a fencer of the highest quality with tremendous talent. Her physical ability, you could tell her technique is at the highest level. You could tell that her strategy is very, very cunning and very, very advanced. And you just know that if she was competing today, she would be an Olympic champion.
In 1953, in California, they started they originated a women's competition to honor Helene Mayer.
At one time was a good-sized event, and people came from all over the world. There would be a couple hundred fencers easily. By the time I attended them, they had gotten to be small local events again, and then it got to be too much for her to run, and they stopped having them.
But it shouldn't matter that the people who ran it, who started it, were no longer around or interested. The people who now fence they want to fence in that competition. No, they don't even know about it. They don't know who Helene Mayer was.
If I may ask you, yeah, I would like to know what makes Helene Mayer so interesting for you in America, or for you in particular.